man who allegedly planned to kill Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh has been charged with attempted murder. Authorities arrested the 26-year-old suspect near Kavanaugh's home in Maryland yesterday. And it comes as the Department of Homeland Security warns that several high-profile events could be exploited to justify acts of violence across the country. Jan Crawford is joining us now from just outside the Supreme Court. Jan, what else are we learning about this incident?
Well, the suspect's name is Nicholas John Roski, and according to court documents, he believed that killing Justice Kavanaugh would, quote, give his life a purpose. We're also hearing from his family members who say they never imagined he could be involved in something like this.
FBI, search warrant!
Last night, FBI agents raided the California home of the man accused of attempting to kill Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Word spread quickly of the plot.
Shocked that it was right here. And a nice family, good neighbors.
According to an FBI affidavit, Nicholas Roski got out of a taxi outside Kavanaugh's home just after 1 a.m. Wednesday. Roughly 10 minutes later, police say they got a 911 call. According to the affidavit, Roski was turning himself in, expressing that he had come from California to kill a Supreme Court justice, had a firearm in his suitcase, and was having suicidal thoughts. Law enforcement arrested him around 1:50 a.m., recovering a Glock 17 pistol, ammunition, pepper spray, and other supplies. Roski allegedly told a detective he was upset about the leaked Supreme Court draft decision that would overturn Roe v. Wade. The leaked opinion sparked protest outside conservative justices' homes, as well as the Supreme Court.
This is exactly the kind of event that many feared.
Republicans and Democrats alike Wednesday renewed the call for legislation that would offer increased security to federal justices and their family members. The Senate unanimously passed such a bill last month, but it stalled in the House.
We shouldn't have to give up our lives to do our job.
U.S. District Judge Esther Salas was the target of an attack 2 years ago. A disgruntled lawyer for a former plaintiff came to her home in New Jersey, where he shot and killed her son. As for Roski, CBS News met his grandfather outside their home in California. He seemed shocked by the news.
Would you ever consider him someone who might be, implicated in threatening a Supreme Court justice?
No, absolutely not.
Roski also allegedly voiced concern that Justice Kavanaugh would roll back gun regulations. If he is convicted, he faces up to 20 years in federal prison. And at the Supreme Court, the building, the justices remain under heightened security as the country waits on that final decision on abortion rights, which we expect sometime this month. Anne-Marie?
Do we know anything else about his motivation? Why he chose Justice Kavanaugh, as opposed to any of the other justices, or anything more?
Well, he told police right away, in fact, made that 911 call himself to turn himself in by saying he was having suicidal thoughts. So by the time the marshals got there, he was already turning himself in and told them that he had come there specifically to kill Justice Kavanaugh and then to kill himself. So he really was pretty open with cops right there on the scene. And of course, they'll be getting more information as this investigation unfolds. And you saw that they did a search of the house back in California overnight. But, as far as why Justice Kavanaugh, he did not write. He was not the author of that leaked opinion. That was another of the conservative justices, Samuel Alito. But all 5 of those justices who are believed to be in the majority overturning Roe versus Wade are under heightened security and have been receiving multiple threats.
Have we heard anything from the Supreme Court in terms of response?
No, the court never comments on security issues. They confirmed that the arrest had taken place and that it was at Justice Kavanaugh's home. We, of course, have now had that confirmed multiple places from law enforcement, but they will never comment on security. But as you can see, I mean, the Supreme Court is a fortress right now. It's been that way. They've got a fencing up. The streets around here are closed. Law enforcement is taking these threats, which have been coming in over the past month, extremely seriously, as they should. I mean, we saw that last night and the night before last. Can you give us sort of a sense of perspective?
I'm sure that the Supreme Court has been like a fortress before for other controversial decisions, or, as people gather there to protest. But I can't recall another time where I felt like the justices were particularly vulnerable. Even Mitch McConnell says that, he wants to introduce legislation to even increase the security even more. Has this happened before?
Not since I've been covering the court. And I mean, that's been 30 years. I mean, there have been controversial decisions, but in the last 3 decades that I've been up here, I've never seen anything like this. And there have been not only controversial decisions, but consequential decisions. You're talking like Bush versus Gore, the presidency, the White House in the balance. So, you know, this is a big decision, but it's not something, you know, that the court hasn't done before. But the rhetoric and the protests that we're seeing around right now, that is unprecedented. And the leak, that is unprecedented. That has never happened before, of an opinion before it was in its final version, ready to be released to the public. So, yes, I mean, there is grave concern about this, not only for Supreme Court justices, but federal appeals court judges, trial court judges across the country, that they're under increased risk in their courtrooms for other cases as well. So you saw senators on both sides, not just Senator McConnell on the Republican side, but Democrats as well, Senator Coons, Senator Durbin. They're all calling for this legislation that would enhance the protection and the funding for police around the families of Supreme Court justices. That legislation has gone nowhere in the House. It's gotten held up. So you're seeing both sides here on the Senate, in the Senate, really trying to push the House and the House Democrats to get going on that.
You know, every day that we hear that there are decisions that are going to be released by the Supreme Court, it's close to the end of the term. We sort of brace ourselves for, you know, what could come.
Right.
I imagine they're bracing themselves there as well. In regards to that abortion ruling,
right,
do we have sort of any information about when we may actually sort of find out officially what the court thinks?
No. And, you know, you're right. Every day we know in advance when the court is going to release decisions. We never know what they're going to be. And so you're right. Every time we hear there's a decision day, and there's not anymore this week, I expect there will be one on Monday, you know, your heart jumps up when it's ready, because, you know, you're just thinking, is this it? Is this the day? But I don't expect a decision in this case till more toward the end of this month. It's just you know, from what I understand, up at the court, they're still working through some of these controversial cases, and typically they save them until the end. They take longer to write. There are more dissents. And so I don't expect that we'll get this case Monday or in our next few opinion days. I would look sometime by the end of the month. But, yeah, I mean, there's going to be enhanced security here then. They expect, I'm sure, multiple protests. We've already had protests. There's going to be big protests next week, too. So, you know, it's going to be a challenge, I think, for the court when this decision does come down.
Yeah, and, you know, Roe v. Wade is sort of the biggie that we've been talking about, but there are other big ones that have to do with gun rights, obviously a very hot topic right now, and religious freedom as well. Jan, thank you very much.